Liz Chatwin, thank you very much for coming in today. What I want to do is run through some of the things that the average person might be worried about as they're contemplating getting a vaccine. We know there is some vaccine hesitancy. What would you say to somebody aged between 50 to 70 who's looking at things and thinking, okay, in Australia at the moment, their chance of getting COVID is pretty low. Even if they got it, the fatality rate in Australia is very low. And so they're thinking they could hedge their bets, hold off. They could then have a choice of perhaps some other vaccines rather than AstraZeneca, and then they wouldn't have to be worried about the risk of blood clots.
So let me start by saying the AstraZeneca vaccine is highly effective. It's actually been used in tens of millions of people around the world, and the vast majority of people, it's extremely well tolerated. Let me just deal with the blood clots issue first. So TTS, thrombosis with thrombocytopenia, has been reported with the AstraZeneca vaccine, and it's extremely rare, Leigh. Here in Australia, based on the last safety report, there have been 18 cases out of a total of 1.8 million vaccinations. Now, those rates are very similar to what have been seen overseas, but the difference here in Australia, the experts are saying, is that the cases appear to be more mild, and they're speculating that this is because there's high awareness here in Australia. Physicians don't have the huge strain of treating COVID-19 in our healthcare system, so they're being diagnosed earlier and managed really effectively with good outcome. Just to put this into context, experts have reported that there are 50 blood clots every day in Australia from a multitude of different causes. So that just underlines how rare this condition is. Like, I've had my vaccine, that reporting on national TV your age bracket is not something one would normally do. But my friends have had it, and a number of our family and neighbours have had the vaccine with no issues. And I would just encourage people, the only way to end this pandemic is for people to come forward and receive the vaccine that's offered. It's really just not just for ourselves, but it's for our friends, our family, our neighbours, and for the community as a whole.
What about the thinking, though, that I mentioned that even if it's a low risk, it's still a higher risk than taking your chances in Australia today with COVID? That can obviously change that calculation because you could have an outbreak tomorrow and then it's a different calculation. But right now, some people are thinking like that.
Yeah, I would say to those people, you know, there's always a risk of an outbreak. I mean, we've seen it across different countries. We've seen it even here in Australia. And to be 100% certain that you can be protected, the way to do that is through vaccination. So we need to do that not just for ourselves, as I said, but also for the community as a whole.
How about the variants that are always circulating around COVID? How effective is AstraZeneca proving against those, in particular the India variant?
Yeah, I mean, the variants, like any virus, viruses mutate. Like we see with the flu virus, every year we need a booster shot. So the AstraZeneca vaccine in the real world, and particularly from the UK, where they've had Indian variants, Brazil variants, and variants from the UK itself, the vaccine has shown good protection. But our scientists are still working on an alternative vaccine, a booster, if it's needed, sometime in next year. And it is possible that booster shots are going to be required for the coming years.
What do you know so far about the effect that the AstraZeneca vaccine has on a person's ability to transmit the virus to others?
So great news in that regard. Both the Pfizer and AstraZeneca vaccine have shown to cut transmissions by up to a half. So that's households that have been vaccinated versus those that haven't have reduced the transmission by 50%.
And then what about if you have had the AstraZeneca vaccine and then you test COVID positive? What does your illness tend to present like? Is there enough data to see that yet?
So we know beyond a shade of a doubt that the AstraZeneca vaccine prevents severe disease, hospitalisation, and has saved thousands of lives. So if there is a case of COVID and you've been vaccinated, it's going to be very mild and will disappear very quickly.
So is it more like a cold kind of?
Like a cold, like a flu syndromes.
Some doctors have raised questions about continuity of supply. They say some weeks they get a certain number of doses, it's different the next week. Sometimes it comes one day, sometimes it comes another day. Why is that happening?
So our company's role is to support the government's vaccination rollout, and we're delighted to be able to do that together with our local manufacturing partner CSL, who's now delivering 1 million doses a week. So the vaccine program has just started to ramp up from the beginning of May, with mass vaccination clinics now opening, and also even from this week, further doses of the AstraZeneca vaccine are being made available to GP clinics across the country.
And then what affects how many doses you can provide from week to week?
So as I said, we're working with CSL, our manufacturing partner, and they're manufacturing the vaccine on our behalf, and they're delivering 1 million doses a week from now, and that will be ramped up further in the future.
Liz Chatwin, thank you.
Thank you very much.
Hi, I'm Leigh Sales. Thanks for watching this story. If you'd like to watch more of 730's stories, they are on the left of your screen. And tap on the button below to subscribe and get the latest from ABC News.